hands meet hands and hearts unite. Through storm and calm we find the light. A place to stand, a place to grow. With faith and truth is all we know. Liberty on Main Street, where hope runs free. In every step, in you and me. Together we rise, together we keep the flame of freedom that never sleeps.
Welcome, everyone, to Liberty on Main Street.
Through every challenge, high or low, we hold.
Welcome, everyone, to Liberty on Main Street. I'm Zester, and today we're going to have an update on the polling information that we had presented a few days ago. We're going to see the battleground states that appear to no longer be battlegrounds and see which states are going to end up carrying the most weight in regards to the Electoral College on election night. And so, first things first, let's jump in and see which states have actually gone ahead and been kind of unofficially declared by the vast majority of the pollsters and pundits. Because as a matter of fact, just from a few days ago, 3 states that I made a somewhat bold prediction of saying we're going to be going into Trump's category have already been aligned into the Republican camp. And we're actually going to have very, very few states, judging by the current polling numbers, assuming that they're correct, which is a pretty big assumption considering how off they were in 2016 and 2020. But assuming that they are correct, let's see what the numbers are showing us now. And so, first thing is first, we've got a few changes from the map I had shown in the previous update. Remember, guys, that Arizona, Georgia, and North Carolina at that point were still considered to be contentious races. Those have all changed. The vast majority of pundits are declaring North Carolina, Georgia, and Arizona are leaning solidly into the Trump campaign. As a matter of fact, in North Carolina, Kamala Harris has effectively pulled all campaign spending dollars out of the state, effectively waving a white flag on her attempt to win the Tar Heel Stakes, which as a native North Carolinian, I'm very proud of my state in regards to that one. But I really never had much of a question on it, considering North Carolina has not voted for a Democrat since 2008 in Barack Obama's first run. And before that, I think the last time was Jimmy Carter. So it's a solid Republican state. It's going to be once again this election. And Georgia, the polling numbers seem to only be stretching out even further. And Arizona, same category. And so now when we look at the map, there's really very, very little here that's left on the table. Assuming these numbers are accurate, we are down to Nevada, Wisconsin, Michigan, and Pennsylvania as being effectively the only states that the vast majority of pollsters seem to believe are potentially going to be a very, very tight or thin margin. So let's jump in and look at each of those and see what our current polls are looking like. First things first, before I do, I think that there's definitely a correlation to be made between the 2016 election and this 2024 election, because the map seems to be coming down to the exact same states. Matter of fact, when we look over here at 2016 in the Trump versus Hillary Clinton election, we see effectively the same exact states having gone towards or trended towards Trump. We see the Arizona, we see the North Carolina and Georgia, and we see that it all came down to, in 2016, Wisconsin, Michigan, and Pennsylvania. What they were claiming at that point in time was the Democrats' solid blue wall that was made up of these Rust Belt states. And so I'm seeing a direct correlation here. It seems as if we're going to have effectively the same election night as we did in 2016 if this trend continues. We're going to be focused on Wisconsin, Michigan, and Pennsylvania. And in all honesty, the vast majority of the other states, unless there is some kind of major upset, the polls are extremely off. It seems as if there aren't really going to be many question mark states. It's going to come down to the supposed blue wall that cracked quite famously back in 2016 and seems to be trending towards that in 2024. And so let's get into some of our different polls. Over here with the Hill, very little has changed in regards to their predictions. They have got Donald Trump at a 53% chance of winning in Pennsylvania. They've got Kamala Harris at 58% chance in Michigan, and Donald Trump edging out Kamala with 52 to 48 in Wisconsin. Now, Nevada is on the map. Of course it is, guys, and I do not in any way mean to dismiss the proud patriots of the state of Nevada, but I'm not going to focus a lot on it. And the reason is because ultimately Nevada is most likely going to be an incredibly tight race. But because of the 6 electoral points, look at where we're at. We're already at 262. If we win Nevada and we lose the Rust Belt entirely, Kamala Harris wins the presidency. If we win any single state in the Rust Belt, Pennsylvania, Michigan, or Wisconsin, well, Nevada can vote for whoever they want to. And so no offense to the people of Nevada, you're very important. Get out and vote. But because of the numbers, we need to see 270. And unfortunately, Nevada, assuming this map holds up, is not going to get us there. We've got to get Wisconsin, Michigan, or Pennsylvania. So just as a heads up, no offense to you guys, but I'm going to be focusing a lot here on these 3. And so if we were to go by the Hill's predictions, it seems as if Donald Trump is going to edge out Kamala Harris in Wisconsin and Pennsylvania, and that Kamala Harris is going to succeed in Michigan. Now, of course, there are quite a few extra question marks to be put in here because we do have a variety of different polls that seem to be indicating in different directions on this one. In particular, let's look at Pennsylvania first. And so from 270 to win on the Pennsylvania 2024 presidential election polls, this is a collection of a variety of different polls. They have got Trump edging out Harris by 0.5%, easily within the margin of error. And so expectations for an incredibly tight race. We do see certain polls, though, in Pennsylvania that seem to be highly off the mean average. And in particular, Echelon Insights here coming in with a 46% to Harris, 52% to Trump. They seem to be fairly unique, though. Just about every other poll is coming in and ranging from dead even to a 1 to 2 point margin. And so that is what we're seeing in regards to 270 to win. Of course, we've got, Fox News polled, Quinnipiac polls, Atlas Intel, a vast majority of differing ones, and some highly contentious polling outlets in the form of CNN. And so as we go over to Project 538, we see in Pennsylvania a very, very similar story coming out from them. Trump barely leading in the state. So particularly tight. And that means we're going to have a very hard time making a declaration on Pennsylvania until we really start to see the numbers come in. Not going to be an easy one to guess, but we do have a little bit more information coming in regards to Wisconsin that's particularly interesting. And so when we come over and we look at Wisconsin in regards to 270 to win and their averaging of all of these different polls, we see them having Harris actually pulling out with a 0.7% lead in that state. Now, I would absolutely state here, though, that we have some very odd things occurring in regards to a lot of the different averages of polls. Look at CNN. CNN comes in here with a 51% to a 45% margin, a 6-point separation between Harris and Trump. We see in every other poll that has been conducted by any other organization that there has never been more of a separation than 1 or 2%. These type of numbers getting put in to an average skew the results. And so I would say on this one, it seems like the 270 to win metric is probably not very trustworthy. And so when we come over and we look at what 538 is seeing in the state of Wisconsin. Matter of fact, with polls that just ended today, we're seeing a neck and neck race with Trump even potentially edging out Harris in the state. And so that is something that I think is very important to keep in mind, guys, as we look at a lot of the different poll numbers, is that there's a lot of variability in terms of their sources. And that's where it becomes very important to do a little bit of a deep dive. So what can we take away from this? Now, I am going to go ahead and kind of assume that Michigan is a much tighter race than they choose to tell us. I do not believe that we see Kamala Harris edging out Trump by the 4 or 5 points that they seem to be stating in that state. But keep in mind, guys, when we go back to the numbers, we're not really worried about it. We are only focused on winning one of these 3. And so Pennsylvania and Wisconsin seem to be our really big ones. Those are the ones that, according to the polling numbers we currently have, we have the highest chance of winning. So if we are going to make any assumptions here at all, it would seem to me as if Pennsylvania is the one that currently is looking to be the Trump victory, as we are seeing a bit of a spread start to occur. And we know that in the state of Pennsylvania, we saw massively higher numbers of Republican voter registrations than we have ever seen in the past. And so Pennsylvania, in terms of a variety of different indicators, seems to be trending towards a Trump victory and a repeat of 2016, where Trump carried the state by a slim margin, but still fairly handily. I don't know if we're going to get this Michigan win, but I am looking to a win on election night of Pennsylvania and Wisconsin. And that is just going directly off of the numbers and making a somewhat bold assumption that the election is going to be, and that the polls are going to be at least somewhat as skewed as they were in 2016 and 2020. Remember, 2016, Hillary Clinton had a 5-point margin at this point in the campaign. That turned out to be incredibly untrue. At this point during the 2020 election with Biden, the polls were showing a 7-point advantage to Biden. And so we know that they have never been correct in regards to Trump's voter turnout. 2016, they weren't right. 2020, they weren't right. It seems highly unlikely that they're suddenly going to be pinpoint on it in 2024 when it comes to the Trump polling numbers. And so there's a lot of wiggle room here. We could see far more states beyond the docket, but ultimately Wisconsin and Pennsylvania are our go-to and our major states to be paying attention to on election night if the polls are in any way accurate. Now, we're going to get a pretty clear indication early in the evening if the polls are accurate, and I believe that indication is going to come from the state of Virginia. Virginia is not the solid blue state that the Democratic Party likes to claim that it is. Now, the people in the area around Washington, D.C., the Alexandria, Virginia area, it is an extremely liberal area of the state, but otherwise, Virginian politics are Republican politics. And I expect us to be able to, early in the evening, get a pretty clear indication if the polls are right or if they're even close to right. If we see the Virginia race become very close, then I think we're going to be able to go ahead and say Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, Michigan, and Nevada are effectively locks for Trump, if we see that. If we see the polling numbers seeming to hold up in the state of Virginia, then expect for a very long night of battling it out over the state of Pennsylvania and Wisconsin. And so right there, 291 if we take Wisconsin and Pennsylvania. Remember, though, Wisconsin can go to Kamala. It doesn't matter. We're still sitting at 281. Same thing can switch around. Wisconsin to Trump, Pennsylvania to Kamala Harris. Doesn't change who's going to be sitting in the White House come January. So thank you guys so much for joining in. This is actually going to be the last update on the polling numbers. The next update will be going in to the after voting polls and things of that nature. All of the polls currently have been the pre-polling prior to someone having voted, someone just answering a survey on their phone. Our next updates are going to be focused more on voter registration numbers and turnout numbers in each state. And the reason that is because effectively any polls that are being conducted now at the end of October, the first day or so in November, are not going to be but so accurate. They're going to be heavily skewed. And so at this point, I think that a lot of us kind of need to go ahead and start tuning out those pre-election polls. We need to start looking at voter turnout numbers, and we need to start looking at voter sentiment. That, I think, is really going to be the indicators that we can take something of seriousness out of at this point. We're just too close to the day. It's about to happen, guys. And so thank you all so much for tuning in. Look forward to talking to you very, very soon. See ya.
Where hands meet hands and hearts unite, through storm and calm we find the light. A place to stand, a place to grow, with faith and truth is all we know. Liberty on Main Street, where hope runs free in every step, in you and me. Together we rise, together we keep the flame of freedom that never sleeps.
Welcome, everyone, to Liberty on Main Street.
Through every challenge, high